The sky over New York City burned crimson. Not the gentle red of a summer sunset, but the harsh, unnatural glow of 1,000 alien engines cooling in the atmosphere. Admiral Vexnar of the Draconian Imperial Fleet stood on the observation deck of his command ship, tentacled fingers tapping impatiently against the railing as he watched the primitive planet beneath him. "Status report," he demanded, not turning to face his subordinate. Lieutenant Krell hesitated. "Sir, our ships have established positions over all major human population centers. Weapon systems are primed and defense arrays are at maximum capacity. We await your command to begin the extraction protocol." Earth's militaries had mobilized, of course. Fighter jets scrambled from bases across the globe, missiles launched from submarines and ground installations, but the draconian deflection fields had rendered them useless. Metal insects battering against an impenetrable wall. "Very good," Vexnar said, his scaled lips curling into what passed for a smile among his species. "These humans think themselves the apex predators of their small, wet world. Today they learned their true place in the galactic hierarchy." 72 hours earlier, the arrival of the Draconian fleet had sent humanity into chaos. The ships had appeared without warning, massive obsidian structures that blotted out the sun over every major city simultaneously. Their message, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect English, Russian, Mandarin, and 100 other human languages, had been simple. "Your species has been selected for processing. Resistance is futile and counterproductive. Prepare yourselves for ascension." No one knew what processing or ascension meant, but the implications were clear. Earth's first contact with alien life wasn't a diplomatic mission. It was an invasion. Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth Defense Force crouched behind the shattered remains of a concrete barrier, breathing heavily. Her squadron had been deployed to gather intelligence on the alien ground forces that had landed in Central Park. So far, they'd managed to remain undetected, but the Draconian patrols were getting closer. "What do you see?" she whispered into her comm unit. "They're collecting samples," replied Surgeon Jackson, her scout positioned 200 meters to the east. "Soil, water, plant life. They're storing everything in some kind of containment fields." Maya frowned. This didn't align with the intelligence they'd received. If the Draconians wanted Earth's resources, why begin with such small-scale collection? "Any sign of weapon deployment?" she asked. "Negative, Captain. They have personal arms, but they're not setting up artillery or fortifications. It's like they're conducting a scientific survey." A voice crackled through her earpiece, General Williams from command. "Captain Chen, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the Draconian mothership. All field units are ordered to fall back immediately." Maya signaled her team to retreat, but curiosity kept her in position for a moment longer. Through her binoculars, she observed a Draconian officer examining a simple dandelion with what appeared to be fascination. The alien's behavior seemed almost reverent. That was when the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Dr. Eli Novak had spent the last 48 hours in his laboratory at MIT, analyzing the limited data they had on the Draconian technology. As one of Earth's leading xenotechnologists, a field that had been theoretical until 3 days ago, he had been drafted by the government to find any potential weakness in the alien defenses. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, running a hand through his disheveled hair as he stared at the screen. His assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim, looked up from her own workstation. "What is it?" "Their power signatures. They're fluctuating dramatically." He pointed to the irregular waves on his monitor. "For a fleet this size to maintain position in our atmosphere, they should be outputting consistent energy levels. But look at these spikes and drops. It's almost as if..." "As if what?" Sarah prompted. Eli's eyes widened. "As if they're having trouble maintaining stability. But that's impossible. Their technology is centuries beyond ours." He was interrupted by a deafening alarm. The building shook, sending equipment crashing to the floor. Sarah grabbed the edge of her desk to steady herself. "Earthquake?" she asked. Eli shook his head, staring out the window as the Draconian ship overhead began to pulse with an eerie blue light. No, something far worse. Chapter 2. Disruption. Admiral Zora Mbeki of the International Space Station had the best view of the unfolding catastrophe. From orbit, she could see the Draconian ships positioned across the planet's surface, each one now emanating strange, pulsating energies that distorted the atmosphere around them. "Houston, are you receiving these images?" she asked, voice steady despite her racing heart. Static answered her. The ISS had lost contact with Earth shortly after the Draconians' arrival. She was effectively alone, an observer to what might be humanity's final hours. Using the station's advanced imaging systems, Zara zoomed in on the Draconian flagship over North America. Something was wrong. The massive vessel was vibrating at a frequency visible even from space, its once smooth hull now rippling like disturbed water. "Computer, analyze structural integrity of unknown vessel," she commanded. The station's AI processed the request. "Analysis indicates severe molecular instability. Vessel appears to be experiencing critical failure in its containment systems." Zara's training told her to document everything, to collect data that might help humanity, if humanity survived. But a more primal instinct told her she was witnessing something unprecedented. The flagship's vibrations intensified until the ship seemed to blur at the edges. Then, without warning or explosion, it simply disappeared. One moment it dominated the sky over New York. The next, it was gone, leaving only a faint ripple in the air where it had been. Zara blinked, certain she'd missed something. But as she watched in disbelief, the same phenomenon spread across the globe. One by one, the Draconian vessels vanished, leaving no trace of their existence. "My God," she whispered, recording everything. "They're gone." The disappearance happened simultaneously worldwide, but the reactions varied dramatically. In Times Square, crowds that had been hiding in buildings for days emerged cautiously, staring up at the empty sky where the alien ship had loomed moments before. A stunned silence fell over the city, broken only by the distant wail of emergency vehicles. Then, slowly, the silence gave way to cheers. People embraced strangers, tears streaming down faces that had been tight with fear for days. Someone started singing the national anthem, and others joined in, a spontaneous celebration of what seemed to be a miraculous deliverance. But not everyone shared in the jubilation. In his laboratory, Eli Novak watched the footage of the disappearing ships with growing dread. "They didn't leave," he said, eyes fixed on his instruments. "They're still here. Somehow, they're still here." In the Oval Office, President Harriet Monroe assembled her crisis team, including military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officers. The room buzzed with nervous energy. "I need answers," the president said, her voice cutting through the chatter. "What happened to those ships? Did we do something? Did they leave voluntarily? And most importantly, are they coming back?" General Marcus Foster, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, cleared his throat. "Madam President, preliminary reports suggest the Draconian fleet experienced some form of catastrophic systems failure. Our satellites detected unusual energy signatures moments before the disappearance. It's possible their technology simply malfunctioned. A malfunction that affected their entire fleet simultaneously." The president's skepticism was evident. "That seems unlikely, General." Dr. Eleanor Wright, the National Science Advisor, spoke up. "There's another possibility, Madam President. Our physicists have been analyzing the data, and they believe the Draconians may have experienced a phase shift." "In English, please, Doctor." "The ships might have shifted out of our visible spectrum, perhaps even out of our dimension. They haven't left Earth's vicinity. They've just changed states." The president's face darkened. "Are you telling me they could reappear at any moment?" Dr. Wright hesitated. "It's a possibility we can't rule out." The discussion was interrupted by an aide rushing into the room. "Madam President, We're receiving transmissions from multiple extraterrestrial sources. Non-Draconian. The room fell silent. Put them through, the president ordered. The wall screen flickered to life, revealing a humanoid figure with silvery skin and large, intelligent eyes. When it spoke, its words were translated by a computer program that had been hastily adapted from the Draconian broadcasts. "People of Earth," the figure said, its voice melodic despite the electronic translation. "I am Ambassador Theli of the Galactic Concord. We have detected the disappearance of the Draconian fleet in your system. This is an unprecedented event that has sent shockwaves throughout civilized space. We request immediate dialogue." The president straightened her jacket and stepped forward. "This is President Monroe of the United Earth Governments. We welcome dialogue, Ambassador. The Draconian fleet arrived without warning and disappeared just as suddenly. We know nothing of their intentions or what happened to them." The alien ambassador's expression changed subtly. "You claim no knowledge of how the most powerful military force in the galaxy vanished while orbiting your planet." "None whatsoever." Ambassador Theli seemed to consider this. "Then you must prepare yourselves. What has happened here will not go unnoticed. The Draconians have subjugated 100 worlds, and never have they faced defeat. Yet somehow your primitive planet has done what advanced civilizations could not. The galaxy will want answers, and so will the remaining Draconian forces." The screen went dark, leaving the humans in stunned silence. "Well," the president said after a moment, "it seems we've joined the galactic community, and our first impression has been to apparently destroy an entire invasion fleet." She turned to her advisors. "I need options, people. Fast. ## Chapter 3. Investigation. 3 weeks after the Draconians' disappearance, the first extraterrestrial diplomatic missions arrived on Earth. Representatives from 12 different spacefaring civilizations established preliminary embassies, all of them eager to understand what had happened to the feared Draconian fleet. Maya Chen, now promoted to major, found herself assigned as security liaison to the Arcturian delegation. The Arcturians resembled tall, slender humans with skin that shifted colors according to their emotions. Currently a cautious yellow-green as Ambassador Lyertel inspected the site in Central Park where Draconian ground forces had been collecting samples. "Your world is unusual," the ambassador said, her translator converting the musical Arcturian language into English. "We have analyzed the composition of your atmosphere, soil, and biosphere. Nothing seems extraordinary, yet something here affected Draconian technology in ways we've never observed." Maya kept a professional distance, hand resting casually near her sidearm. Trust between species was still in its infancy. Perhaps it wasn't something in our environment. Maybe they sabotaged themselves, or experienced a mutiny. Lyertel's skin rippled with blue patterns. Amusement, Maya had learned. The Draconians are many things, Major Chen, but they are not prone to internal conflict. Their society is built on absolute loyalty to the hierarchy. No, something on Earth disrupted their phase lock technology. Their what? Phase lock. It's how their ships maintain stability between dimensional planes. The ambassador bent down to examine a patch of grass. Draconian vessels exist partially in our dimension and partially in another, which is how they achieve faster-than-light travel. Something here forced a complete phase shift, pulling their entire fleet into the other dimension. Maya processed this information. So they're not destroyed. They're just somewhere else. Precisely. And if they find a way back, they will not be pleased. Dr. Eli Novak had barely slept since the disappearance. His laboratory had been expanded, with government funding pouring in and a team of international scientists now working under his direction. Their mission: understand what happened to the Draconians and determine if it could happen again. Today, they were testing a theory that had emerged from their collaboration with Arcturian scientists. "The resonance frequency matches," said Dr. Kim, excitement evident in her voice as she looked up from her calculations. "Earth's magnetic field oscillates at precisely the inverse harmonic of Draconian phase lock technology." Eli nodded, the implications dawning on him. So when they activated their extraction protocol, they accidentally created a destructive resonance pattern. The more ships they brought, the stronger the effect became, until the resonance forced a complete phase shift. Eli finished. They triggered their own disappearance. Dr. Yusuf Rahman, a quantum physicist from Egypt, frowned. But this raises a more troubling question. If Earth's magnetic field naturally disrupts their technology, why didn't their preliminary scans detect this incompatibility? The scientists fell silent, considering the implications. Maybe they did know, Eli said slowly. Maybe that's exactly why they came here. In the depths of the Pentagon, a classified meeting was underway. President Monroe sat at the head of the table, listening as Admiral Jonathan Hayes presented the military's latest findings. We've detected quantum echoes at each location where a Draconian ship was positioned, the Admiral explained. These echoes suggest the ships are attempting to phase back into our dimension. How long do we have? Asked the President. It's impossible to say with certainty. The Arcturians estimate anywhere from months to years. The phase shift was catastrophic for Draconian systems. They'll need time to recalibrate. Defense Secretary Rodriguez leaned forward. And what about the rest of the galaxy? The diplomatic channels are buzzing with activity, but what's the real situation out there? A woman in civilian clothes spoke up. Director Claire Foster of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The galactic political landscape is shifting rapidly, Madam President. For centuries, the Draconian Empire has maintained control through fear and superior technology. With their main fleet missing in action, oppressed worlds are beginning to rebel. 3 systems have already declared independence. And how does this affect Earth? The President asked. In 2 significant ways, Director Foster replied. First, we're now seen as either a potential ally against Draconian oppression or a mysterious threat. Second, everyone wants to know our secret weapon, how we defeated the undefeatable Draconians. President Monroe considered this, and if we explain it was an accident of physics, that our magnetic field created a resonance that their technology couldn't handle. Some will believe us. Others will assume we're hiding advanced defensive capabilities. Either way, Earth has suddenly become the most important planet in the galaxy. The President stood, walking to the window that overlooked the Washington Monument. Then we need to leverage this position while we can. Admiral, accelerate the adaptation of alien technology to our defense systems. Director Foster, deepen diplomatic ties with anti-Draconian factions. And someone get Dr. Novak's team whatever they need to develop an early warning system for phase shifts. If the Draconians find a way back, I want to know before they arrive. Chapter 4. Revelation. 6 months after the disappearance, humanity had begun to adapt to its new status as a galactic power. Technological exchange with friendly alien civilizations had accelerated Earth's development by decades. Cities now featured alien architectural elements, and the first human-piloted spacecraft using adapted extraterrestrial technology were preparing for test flights to Mars. But beneath the excitement of these advancements lay a constant anxiety. The Draconian threat remained, invisible but ever-present, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. Maya Chen had been promoted again, now commanding Earth's first interspecies military unit, a joint force of human soldiers and alien allies training to defend the planet against future threats. Today, they were running combat simulations in a repurposed military base in the Nevada desert. Zephyrian Squad, flank left. Human team, provide covering fire. Maya ordered through her comm system, watching as the blue-skinned Zephyrians moved with graceful speed across the training ground. Her second in command, a Rigelian named Corv whose exoskeleton gleamed in the sunlight, approached after the exercise concluded. The integration progresses well, Commander. Though I must note that human reflexes remain suboptimal. Maya smiled at what she'd learned was Rigelian humor. We're working with what evolution gave us, Corv. Not everyone can have your reaction time. Indeed. Corv's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Yet it was humans who defeated the Draconian fleet. Perhaps there are advantages to being unpredictable. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Maya's comm device. Her face grew serious as she read the message. Training's over for today. We're needed at headquarters immediately. Eli Novak stood before a room of military and political leaders, his usual academic composure replaced by barely contained excitement. Holographic displays around him showed complex equations and three-dimensional models of Earth's magnetic field. "We've confirmed our theory," he announced. Earth's unique magnetic properties created a resonance pattern that forced the Draconian fleet into a complete phase shift. But here's the breakthrough. We've detected communication between the shifted Draconians and other phase-locked vessels at the edge of our solar system. President Monroe leaned forward. "They're planning to return." "Yes, but not how we expected." Eli manipulated the holographic display, showing a simulation of Earth surrounded by hundreds of small objects. "They're sending phase shift stabilizers, devices designed to create windows between dimensions. Once deployed around Earth, these would allow the trapped fleet to return gradually without experiencing the same resonance disruption." "How soon?" General Foster demanded. "The first stabilizers will reach Earth's orbit within 72 hours. The room erupted in urgent conversations until the president raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Novak, can these devices be intercepted or disabled?" "Theoretically, yes. We've been working with Arcturian and Rigelian scientists to develop countermeasures." Maya Chen, who had arrived midway through the briefing, spoke up. "My unit can deploy immediately. If we adapt our ships with Dr. Novak's countermeasures, we can intercept these stabilizers before they activate." The president nodded. "Make it happen. We can't allow the Draconians to establish a foothold again." As the meeting dispersed into action teams, Ambassador Lyertel of Arcturus approached Maya and Eli. Her skin had shifted to a deep, concerned purple. "There is something else you should know," she said quietly. "Our intelligence suggests the Draconians' interest in Earth wasn't random. They came here specifically, seeking something they call the Nexus." "What's the Nexus?" Maya asked. "We don't know precisely. Ancient texts mention it as a point where dimensions naturally intersect, a place of immense power. The Draconians have searched for it for millennia." Eli's expression shifted as connections formed in his mind. "And they think it's here, on Earth." "Not just on Earth," Lyertel replied. "They believe it is Earth. Your entire planet may be what they've been seeking all along." Chapter 5. Confrontation. The operation to intercept the Draconian phase shift stabilizers became a desperate race against time. Maya commanded a fleet of 20 ships, human vessels retrofitted with alien technology, crewed by the best pilots Earth had to offer and supported by their extraterrestrial allies. "Target approaching," Commander reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from the tactical station, "entering weapons range in 30 seconds." Maya studied the holographic display showing the small, innocuous-looking device tumbling through space toward Earth. It resembled a metallic seed pod, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with internal energy. "Deploy countermeasure drones," she ordered. "Let's test Dr. Novak's theory before risking a direct approach." 3 drones detached from Maya's command ship, accelerating toward the stabilizer. Each carried a device designed to disrupt the phase-lock frequencies the Draconians used. If successful, the countermeasures would force the stabilizer into the same dimensional shift that had claimed the fleet. The drones surrounded the stabilizer, activated their disruption fields, and nothing happened. "Countermeasures ineffective," Rodriguez reported, tension evident in his voice. "The stabilizer's shield technology is adapting." Maya made a quick decision. "All ships, direct energy weapons, full power. Target that stabilizer before it can activate." 20 beams of concentrated energy converged on the small device. For a moment, its shields held, creating a dazzling light show against the backdrop of space. Then, with a flash that temporarily blinded their sensors, the stabilizer exploded. A cheer went up from the crew, but Maya remained focused. Status report on the other incoming stabilizers. Rodriguez's expression grew grim. Long-range sensors detect. Hundreds more. Commander. They're approaching from multiple vectors. Maya opened a channel to Earth. Command. This is Chen. We've neutralized one stabilizer, but there are too many for us to intercept. We need a new strategy. Back on Earth, Eli Novak and his international team worked feverishly in their laboratory. The walls were covered with equations and diagrams, and holographic models of Earth's magnetic field rotated slowly above their workstations. If we can't stop them all from arriving, Eli said, thinking aloud, then we need to amplify the effect that trapped the fleet in the first place. Dr. Kim looked up from her calculations. You're suggesting we weaponize Earth's magnetic field. Is that even possible? Not exactly weaponize, Eli clarified. More like intensify. The Draconians were affected by a natural resonance. If we could increase that resonance artificially, we'd need massive amounts of energy, Dr. Rahman pointed out, and a global network of amplification stations positioned at key magnetic nodes. Eli nodded, already moving to the communications terminal. I'll speak to the president. Dr. Kim, start calculations for optimal station placement. Dr. Rahman, work on energy requirements. We have less than 48 hours before those stabilizers create enough dimensional windows for the Draconians to begin returning. Admiral Vexnar floated in the strange, shifting void of phase space, watching Earth through the distorted lens of cross-dimensional perception. 6 months of entrapment had changed the Draconian leader. His scales had darkened, and his eyes had developed an eerie luminescence adapted to the different physics of this realm. The stabilizers are being deployed, reported Lieutenant Krell, his form wavering slightly in the non-space they inhabited. The humans have destroyed some, but most will reach their positions. Excellent, Vexnar hissed. Prepare the Vanguard ships for transition. Once the first window opens, we'll establish a beachhead and expand from there. Sir, Krell hesitated. Our scientists have continued analyzing the incident that trapped us here. They believe Earth itself caused the phase shift, that the planet's magnetic properties are fundamentally incompatible with our technology. I am aware, Vexnar said, his voice carrying an unusual resonance in the dimensional void. It confirms what our ancient texts have claimed. Earth is the nexus, the dimensional crossroads our ancestors sought for millennia. Its unique properties are not a deterrent, Lieutenant. They are precisely why we came. I understand, Admiral. Vexinar's mouth curled into that alien smile again. Control of Earth means control of dimensional transit throughout the galaxy. With the Nexus in our possession, the Draconian Empire will no longer need conventional FTL technology. We will simply step between worlds. Krell seemed disturbed by this revelation. And the humans will serve their purpose, Vexnar replied coldly. Their presence is an unfortunate biological infestation on a planet of immense strategic value. Once we reestablish control, they will be processed as originally planned. Their consciousness will become part of the Nexus power matrix. Unknown to the Draconians, their communications were no longer secure. In the dimensional space between realities, other entities had become aware of their plans. Entities with their own interest in Earth and humanity's unexpected resistance. Chapter 6. Counterattack. 48 hours later, Earth had transformed into a planet preparing for war. Eli Novak's plan had been implemented with remarkable speed, thanks to global cooperation and alien technical assistance. 200 magnetic amplification stations had been constructed at key points around the world, each one designed to increase the natural resonance that had affected the Draconian fleet. In the Central Control Facility, beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Monroe addressed the gathered military and scientific leaders. The first dimensional windows will open within the hour, she said gravely. Our space-based forces are in position to engage any Draconian ships that emerge, but our primary defense will be Dr. Novak's resonance system. Dr. Novak, are we ready? Eli stood, displaying confidence he didn't entirely feel. The system is operational, Madam President. Once activated, it should create a resonance field strong enough to disrupt any Draconian technology attempting to phase into our dimension. However, I must emphasize that this is untested technology based on theoretical principles. We cannot guarantee success. Noted, Doctor. But right now, it's our best hope. The President turned to General Foster. Status of evacuation protocols. Underground shelters are at capacity. Civilian populations have been moved away from all major cities and potential Draconian targets. And our allies, Ambassador Lyertel, representing the coalition of alien civilizations supporting Earth, stepped forward. Our ships have taken defensive positions in Earth orbit. Should the resonance defense fail, we are prepared to engage the Draconian forces directly. The President nodded, her expression somber but determined. Then we wait. In orbit, Maya Chen's command ship maintained position alongside vessels from a dozen alien worlds. The fleet represented the first true interstellar alliance formed around Earth, a testament to how quickly humanity had been accepted into the galactic community. Commander, her tactical officer called, we're detecting energy fluctuations at the stabilizer coordinates. The dimensional windows are beginning to form. Maya watched as ripples appeared in the fabric of space, like heat distortions over a desert highway. The stabilizers had positioned themselves in a geometric pattern around Earth, and at each point, reality itself seemed to bend and fold. All ships, maintain formation, she ordered. Hold fire until Draconian vessels are confirmed. Remember your training. Their phase technology makes them partially incorporeal during transition. Standard weapons will be less effective until they fully materialize. As she spoke, the first dimensional window expanded into a swirling vortex of energy. Through it, the massive silhouette of a Draconian warship began to emerge, its obsidian hull gleaming with an unnatural light. Draconian Vanguard detected, Rodriguez reported. Energy signatures matched their destroyer class. 5 more windows are expanding. We'll have multiple contacts within minutes. Maya opened a channel to Earth. Control, this is Chen. Draconian emergence confirmed. Requesting authorization to activate the resonance system. Authorization granted, came the President's voice. Initiate on your mark, Commander. Maya took a deep breath. Dr. Novak, activate the system. On Earth, Eli Novak initiated the sequence that would determine humanity's fate. The 200 amplification stations simultaneously powered up, drawing massive amounts of energy from the planet's power grids. Blue-white light pulsed along invisible lines connecting the stations, tracing the contours of Earth's magnetic field. Power at 60% and rising, reported Dr. Kim. Resonance pattern establishing. Eli watched the holographic representation of Earth's magnetic field intensify, expanding outward from the planet like ripples in a pond. 70%, 80, 90. Energy consumption exceeding projections, Dr. Rahman warned. The power grid is straining. We need full power, Eli insisted. Push it to 100%. As the system reached maximum output, the effect was immediately visible from space. Earth became surrounded by a shimmering blue aura as its amplified magnetic field extended far beyond its normal boundaries. Maya watched in awe as the resonance field expanded toward the emerging Draconian ships. The lead destroyer was now halfway through the dimensional window, its weapons ports beginning to glow with building energy. Resonance field approaching Draconian vessels in 3, 2, 1. When the field touched the first ship, the effect was dramatic. The destroyer seemed to shudder, its outline becoming distorted as if viewed through rippling water. Energy coursed across its hull in chaotic patterns. It's working, Rodriguez exclaimed. The Draconian ships are experiencing phase instability. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of being forced back into phase space, the Draconian destroyer stabilized, its hull emitting a counteracting red field that pushed against the blue resonance. They've adapted, Maya realized with growing dread. They've developed shielding against the resonance. More Draconian ships began to emerge through the dimensional windows, each projecting the same protective field. The Vanguard destroyer, now fully materialized in normal space, powered its weapon systems. Evasive maneuvers, Maya ordered. All ships engage Draconian vessels. Focus fire on their engine sections where phase technology is concentrated. The space around Earth erupted in battle as the Allied fleet engaged the emerging Draconian forces. Energy weapons sliced through the vacuum, and smaller fighters darted between the larger capital ships in a deadly dance. Maya opened a channel to Earth. Control, the resonance isn't working as expected. The Draconians have adapted their technology. We need a new solution. Fast. In the control center, Eli stared at the data in disbelief. They shouldn't have been able to counter the resonance this quickly. It's almost as if they anticipated our response. Dr. Kim finished. President Monroe turned to them, her expression grim. Options, Doctor. Our forces in orbit can't hold them off indefinitely. Eli's mind raced through possibilities, discarding one after another until... The Nexus, he said suddenly. If Earth truly is what the Draconians call the Nexus, a natural dimensional crossroads, then perhaps we've been thinking about this all wrong. We've been trying to push the Draconians away, but what if we could pull them in completely? Explain, the President demanded. Instead of increasing the resonance to repel their phase technology, we reverse the polarity. Create a massive dimensional sink that draws everything in the vicinity into phase space, including the Draconian fleet. But wouldn't that affect our ally ships as well? And potentially Earth itself? Eli nodded grimly. It's a risk. But I believe Earth's natural properties will protect it from being drawn in. As for our allies, they'd need to retreat beyond the resonance field's range. The President considered for only a moment before turning to her communications officer. Order all Allied ships to fall back to minimum safe distance. Inform Commander Chen of the plan. To Eli, she simply said, do it. In orbit, Maya received the new orders with a mixture of hope and apprehension. All Allied vessels, this is Commander Chen. Retreat to coordinates being transmitted. I repeat, immediate withdrawal to safe distance. As the coalition ships began their tactical retreat, the Draconian vessels pressed their advantage, believing they had forced their enemies to flee. Maya's ship was the last to withdraw, maintaining position just long enough to transmit a final message to the Draconian command ship. Admiral Vexnar, this is Commander Chen of Earth. You sought the Nexus. Prepare to become one with it. She engaged her engines at maximum thrust, pulling away from Earth just as the planet's resonance field began to shift from blue to a deep, pulsing purple. On the Draconian flagship, now fully emerged into normal space, Admiral Vexnar received Maya's transmission with confusion that quickly turned to alarm. What are they doing? He demanded, watching as Earth's magnetic field changed color and intensity. Lieutenant, analyze that energy pattern. Krell worked frantically at his console, but his report came too late. Sir, they've inverted the resonance. They're creating a dimensional singularity. Vexnar felt his ship lurch as an invisible force began pulling it toward Earth. Around him, his mighty fleet, the pride of the Draconian Empire, was being drawn inexorably toward the growing purple vortex that now surrounded the planet. Engage emergency phase drives, he ordered. Get us out of this system. But the more his ship struggled against the pull, the stronger it became. The dimensional windows they had created, intended as their path to conquest, now served as anchor points for the singularity, strengthening its grip on them. Vexnar watched in horror as his vanguard ships were pulled back into phase space, their forms stretching and distorting before disappearing entirely. His own flagship shuddered, systems failing as the hull began to lose cohesion. The humans, he hissed in realization and rage. They're not just defending themselves. They're using the Nexus. As his ship disintegrated around him, Vexnar's last thought was that the primitive species he had dismissed as insignificant had proven to be far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. Chapter 7 Aftermath 3 months after what became known as the Battle of Earth, Maya Chen stood at a podium before representatives from over 50 extraterrestrial civilizations. The United Nations Hall had been expanded to accommodate the diverse physical needs of the galaxy's diplomatic corps, some requiring special atmospheric chambers, others gravity adjustments or temperature modifications. On behalf of humanity, Maya began, her voice steady despite the significance of the moment. I welcome you to the first Galactic Concord Summit. 3 months ago, many of you fought alongside us against the Draconian invasion. Today, we gather not as desperate allies in war, but as partners in a new era of cooperation. The applause that followed came in various forms. Some delegates clapped hands or appendages, others emitted musical tones or pulsed with bioluminescence. All represented the same sentiment, appreciation and respect. President Monroe took the podium next. The Battle of Earth marked a turning point in galactic history. The Draconian Empire, which had subjugated worlds for millennia, has been fundamentally weakened. Reports from across the galaxy confirm that 17 systems have declared independence, and resistance movements have emerged in dozens more. Ambassador Lyertel's skin shimmered with golden patterns of satisfaction as she addressed the assembly. The Arcturian Confederation recognizes Earth not merely as an ally, but as the catalyst for a new galactic order. The humans' innovative use of the Nexus has demonstrated that even the most established powers can be challenged when determination meets ingenuity. From his seat beside Maya, Eli Novick listened to the diplomatic exchanges with the scientist's skepticism. The prevailing narrative, that humanity had cleverly used Earth's unique properties to defeat the Draconians, was politically convenient but scientifically incomplete. In private conversations, away from the celebratory speeches, Eli had shared his deeper concerns with Maya and a small circle of trusted officials. The dimensional singularity they had created had indeed removed the immediate Draconian threat, but at a cost they were only beginning to understand. Later that evening, in a secure conference room beneath the UN building, the real discussions took place. President Monroe sat at the head of the table, with Maya, Eli, and representatives from the core alien allies gathered around. Dr. Novak, the president said, "Your full assessment, please. No diplomatic phrasing necessary." Eli nodded, activating a holographic display that showed Earth surrounded by a faint purple aura, the residual effect of the dimensional event they had triggered. "The good news is that we successfully repelled the Draconian invasion," he began. "The inverted resonance field created what I've termed a dimensional sink that pulled their fleet back into phase space, and then collapsed the phase space pocket they occupied, effectively trapping them in a closed dimensional bubble." "And the bad news?" asked Corv, the Regellian military commander. "The bad news comes in 3 parts," Eli replied grimly. "First, the dimensional event has permanently altered Earth's properties. The Nexus, as the Draconians called it, is now awake. Earth's dimensional boundaries have become more permeable. We're detecting micro-fluctuations in reality across the planet." He adjusted the display to show locations where these fluctuations were strongest, primarily centered around the magnetic amplification stations they had built. "Second, we have reason to believe not all Draconians were caught in the sink. Long-range scans have detected phase technology signatures at the edges of our solar system. They're watching, waiting, possibly planning." Maya leaned forward. "And third, Eli said, his voice dropping, "we've detected something else in the dimensional spaces between realities, something that noticed us when we created the sink." The room fell silent. Ambassador Lyertel broke it first. "The precursors," she whispered, skin paling to an ashen gray. "You know of them?" President Monroe asked. "Only in our most ancient texts," Lyertel explained. "Beings that existed before our civilizations, who supposedly mastered dimensional travel, and then disappeared. Most consider them mythological." "Well, they're not myths," Eli said, displaying new data. When we collapsed that pocket of phase space, we detected energy patterns that didn't match Draconian technology. Something else was there, observing. And now, those same patterns are appearing near our dimensional fluctuations on Earth. Maya processed this information with a soldier's pragmatism. Are they hostile? Unknown, Eli admitted. But they're curious, and in my experience, curiosity often precedes contact. The president stood, processing the implications. So we've repelled one threat only to potentially awaken another. And our planet is now. What? A dimensional lighthouse. More like a door that's been cracked open, Eli corrected. Not enough for anything large to come through, but enough that we're more visible to whatever exists in those between spaces. Then we need to be prepared for whatever might notice us, the president decided. Commander Chen, expand your interspecies defense force. Dr. Novak, I want a dedicated research division studying these dimensional fluctuations and developing countermeasures. Ambassador Lyertel, we need everything your people know about these precursors, mythological or not. As the meeting adjourned, Maya pulled Eli aside. You held something back in there. What is it? Eli hesitated, then gestured for her to follow him to his laboratory. Once inside, he activated security protocols that would prevent any eavesdropping, extraterrestrial or otherwise. I've been having dreams, he said quietly. Since the battle. Dreams that feel different, more real than reality, if that makes sense. Maya frowned. What kind of dreams? I see Earth, but not our Earth. Different versions, countless variations, and in each one, I see the same event playing out differently. In some, the Draconians win. In others, Earth is destroyed. In a few, something else entirely happens. He pulled up data on his private terminal. And here's the thing. The EEG patterns during these dreams match the frequency of the dimensional fluctuations we're detecting. Are you saying your dreams are, what? Glimpses of parallel Earths. I think when we activated the Nexus, we did more than create a weapon. We created a connection, not just between our dimension and phase space, but between an infinite number of possible realities. Eli ran a hand through his disheveled hair. And I don't think I'm the only one experiencing this. Reports of unusual dreams and visions have increased 300% globally since the battle. Maya considered this. Have you told anyone else? Not yet. How do you report that Earth's population is beginning to psychically connect with parallel dimensions without causing panic? Fair point. Maya placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Keep monitoring it. If the situation escalates, we'll inform the president together. As she turned to leave, Eli called after her. Maya, there's one more thing. In every version of Earth I see, in every possible reality, something is coming. Something drawn to the Nexus. And I don't think we have much time to prepare. ## Chapter 8. Convergence. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, humanity had adapted remarkably well to its new status as a galactic power. Technological exchange with allied civilizations had accelerated Earth's development by centuries. Cities now featured gravity-defying architecture, clean energy had replaced fossil fuels, and the first human settlements on Mars and Europa were already under construction. But beneath this prosperity lay a current of unease. The dimensional fluctuations Eli had detected had grown stronger and more frequent. Reports of strange phenomena, objects appearing and disappearing, temporary shifts in local physics, even brief glimpses of places that couldn't possibly exist on Earth, had become common enough to earn their own classification system. In the expanded headquarters of the Earth Defense Force, Maya Chen reviewed the latest reports with her multinational and multi-species command staff. Dimensional incursion events have increased by 42% this quarter, she noted, scrolling through the data. Most are minor, Class 1 or 2, but we've recorded 17 Class 3 events and 2 Class 4s. Corv, now her official second-in-command, clicked his mandibles in concern. The Class 4 in Brisbane resulted in temporary phase shift of a 3-block radius. 43 humans experienced dimensional displacement before we contained it. Were they recovered? Asked Captain Singh, head of the Rapid Response Division. All but 2, Maya answered grimly. Dr. Novik's team is still working on locating them. The Zephyrian commander, whose name translated roughly as wind over water, floated gently above his specially designed chair. Our seers believe these incursions will continue to increase in frequency and intensity. The Nexus is stretching, testing its boundaries. Maya had learned to take the Zephyrians' seers seriously. Their species possessed a form of precognition that, while limited, had proven remarkably accurate regarding dimensional phenomena. What about the Draconian remnants? She asked, changing topics. Any activity? Singh pulled up a new display showing the outer solar system. Long-range sensors detected phase signatures near Neptune last week. A small scout vessel, we believe. It observed for 72 hours, then disappeared. They're still watching us. And learning, Maya added. Make sure our patrol routes are randomized. I don't want them mapping our defensive capabilities. As the meeting concluded, Maya found herself staring at the global map showing dimensional incursion hotspots. They were forming a pattern, one that reminded her of the Draconian stabilizers from the battle. A notification on her comm unit interrupted her thoughts. A priority message from Eli Novak. Need to see you immediately. Lab 7. Breakthrough. Eli's laboratory had expanded into an entire research wing, with scientists from 12 different species working alongside the best minds from Earth. When Maya arrived, she found him in a secure room with a single alien she didn't recognize. A tall, willowy being with translucent skin through which complex circulatory and nervous systems were visible. Maya, meet Selter, Eli said by way of introduction. He's a quantum. They exist partially in our dimension, and partially in another. The alien bowed slightly, its movements leaving a brief afterimage in the air. Commander Chen, your reputation extends beyond dimensional boundaries. Maya nodded respectfully. A pleasure. Eli, you mentioned a breakthrough. Yes. Eli activated the room's holographic system, displaying what appeared to be a map of intersecting lines across a three-dimensional representation of Earth. With Selter's help, we've mapped the dimensional currents flowing through the Nexus. The pattern is complex, but not random. It's structured, almost like a program. Selter finished. My people believe the Nexus was not a natural formation, but a constructed nexus point, a deliberate creation by the precursors. Maya studied the complex pattern. Created for what purpose? Transportation, perhaps, Selter suggested, or communication across vast interdimensional distances. But the most intriguing hypothesis is that it served as a library, a repository of realities. Eli nodded enthusiastically. That would explain the dream connections many humans are experiencing. We're accessing fragments of information stored within the Nexus structure. But why now? Maya asked. The Nexus has presumably been here since Earth formed. Why is it activating now? Because of what we did during the battle, Eli explained. The dimensional sink we created didn't just trap the Draconians, it jump-started the Nexus. Like rebooting an ancient computer. Selter's skin rippled with patterns that Maya interpreted as concern. And now it continues its boot sequence. The increased incursions are system tests. The Nexus reestablishing connections to the dimensional network it was designed to access. Is that dangerous? Maya asked. Potentially catastrophic, Eli admitted. If the Nexus fully activates without proper control protocols, it could tear Earth apart, or worse, collapse multiple dimensions into each other. Maya processed this grim assessment. So how do we stop it? We don't, Selter said simply. Not permanently. The activation process has begun and cannot be halted. But it can be guided, controlled. The precursors would have had systems in place to manage the Nexus's functions. So we need to find these control systems, Maya concluded. Where would they be? Eli pointed to the holographic display. highlighting 7 points around the globe where dimensional currents converged most intensely. We believe these are access points, gateways to whatever control mechanism the precursors installed. The problem, Zelter added, is that these points exist simultaneously in multiple dimensional phases. To access them, one would need to shift partially between dimensions, a process fatal to most biological organisms. Maya turned to Eli. But not to all. I'm guessing. No, Eli confirmed. The Quantum can navigate these dimensional boundaries, and we've developed a prototype that might allow humans to do the same. He retrieved a sleek device resembling a narrow headband, a phase shift stabilizer, ironically adapted from Draconian technology. It creates a personal field that allows the wearer to exist in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously, for a limited time. How limited? Maya asked, already guessing where this was heading. 30 minutes at most before cellular degradation begins, but it should be enough to access the control points, and well, we're not entirely sure what happens then. Communicate with the Nexus somehow, we hope. Maya took the device, weighing it in her hand. And you want me to test this? You're the logical choice, Eli said. Your exposure during the battle, combined with your combat training and decision-making abilities, makes you uniquely qualified. But I won't pretend it isn't dangerous. Maya thought of the 2 civilians lost in the Brisbane incident, of the Draconian scouts watching from the outer solar system, of the unknown precursors observing from dimensional spaces humans couldn't comprehend. When do we start? She asked. The first access point was located beneath Mexico City, in an ancient chamber predating Aztec civilization. Archaeological evidence suggested the indigenous peoples had considered it a sacred space where the gods could walk between worlds, a description that aligned perfectly with Nexus activity. Maya stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by Eli's equipment and a small team of specialists. Zelter hovered nearby, his partially phased form shimmering in the artificial light. The dimensional currents are strong here, the Quantum observed. You will feel disorientation when the shift begins. Focus on maintaining your mental structure, your sense of self. The spaces between dimensions can be persuasive. Maya adjusted the phase shift stabilizer on her forehead. Anything else I should know? Trust what you see, even when it seems impossible, Zelter advised. And remember that time flows differently between dimensions. What feels like minutes to you may be seconds or hours here. Eli completed his final checks of the equipment. The stabilizer is calibrated to the precise frequency of this access point. Once activated, you should phase partially into the dimensional space where the controls exist. We'll monitor your vital signs and can pull you back if necessary, but communication may be limited. Maya took a deep breath, centering herself as she'd been trained. Activate the stabilizer. Eli pressed a sequence on his control pad. The device on Maya's forehead hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the world around her began to change. The chamber walls became transparent, revealing layers of reality beyond them. The people around her stretched and distorted, their forms leaving trails in the air as they moved. Sound became visible as waves of color, and light took on physical weight. "I'm shifting," she reported, her voice creating ripples in the dimensional fabric. "Everything is different." Zelter's voice reached her, though his form had become even more ethereal. Move toward the center configuration. The access interface should manifest as the shift completes. Maya walked forward, though walking didn't quite describe the sensation of movement through partially phased space. With each step, the normal world receded further, replaced by a landscape of impossible geometry and flowing energy patterns. At the center of the chamber, where solid stone had been moments before, a structure manifested, a crystalline matrix that pulsed with internal light, its form constantly shifting between configurations that hurt her eyes to follow. "I see something," she reported. "A crystal device. It's changing shape continuously." "That is the access node." Zelter's distant voice confirmed. You must synchronize with its pattern to establish connection. Maya reached out toward the crystalline matrix. As her hand approached, tendrils of energy extended from the structure, wrapping around her fingers and then her arm. There was no pain, only a strange sensation of being simultaneously pulled apart and compressed. It's connecting with me, she said. I feel. Her words trailed off as information flooded into her mind. Not as language or images, but as pure conceptual understanding. The Nexus was awakening, re-establishing connections to a vast network spanning dimensions, and it recognized her, in some fundamental way, as a user. Through this direct interface, Maya understood what the Draconians had sought. The Nexus wasn't merely a dimensional crossroads. It was a control node for reality itself. With it, one could theoretically reshape dimensions, create or destroy connections between realities, even engineer entirely new spaces of existence. But the system was damaged. The long dormancy, followed by the violent reactivation during the battle, had corrupted parts of its structure. The increasing incursions were symptoms of this damage. Dimensional bleeding that would worsen unless the system was properly reinitialized. Maya sensed a presence within the matrix, not a consciousness exactly, but an echo of intentionality left by the precursors. It offered a choice: complete shutdown, which would sever Earth from the interdimensional network, but likely cause catastrophic planetary damage in the process, or complete reactivation, which would stabilize the system but forever alter Earth's relationship with surrounding dimensions. There's no safe option, Maya realized, her thoughts transmitting directly through the connection. Either way, Earth changes forever. The Matrix pulsed in what felt like agreement. Then it offered a third option, one the precursors had apparently built as a failsafe. The Nexus could be relocated, its core functions transferred to another celestial body, while leaving Earth with only minimal dimensional permeability. Maya considered the options, aware that her 30 minutes must be nearly expired. Complete shutdown, potentially catastrophic. Complete activation, unknown consequences for humanity. Relocation, sacrifice another world to save Earth. None were perfect, but one offered the best chance for her planet's survival. Initiate relocation protocol, she commanded. The crystal matrix flared with blinding light as the command was accepted. Maya felt herself being pulled back from the dimensional interface, her consciousness returning to normal spacetime with jarring suddenness. She collapsed to the chamber floor, gasping, as Eli and the medical team rushed to her side. Maya, what happened? What did you see? Through the disorientation, she managed to focus on his face. I made a choice, Eli. I told it to move, to relocate the Nexus. Move it where? He asked, helping her to sit up. Before she could answer, the ground beneath them shuddered. Above, through the open chamber ceiling, they watched as the sky rippled like the surface of a disturbed pond. Where did you tell it to go? Eli asked again, more urgently. Maya looked up at the shimmering sky, to the one place already affected by dimensional distortion. The place the Draconians are hiding. She paused. I sent it to the pocket of phase space where we trapped the Draconian fleet. Chapter 9. Resolution. The relocation process took 7 days to complete. For that week, Earth experienced what would later be called the shimmering, a period when reality itself seemed fluid. The sky rippled with aurora light patterns visible even in daylight. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably. Time occasionally stuttered, with moments repeating or skipping forward. And dreams became so vivid that some people couldn't distinguish them from waking life. World governments maintained remarkable calm, largely due to advance warning from Eli's team and the now established protocols for dimensional anomalies. When the shimmering finally ended, Earth settled into a new normal, one with significantly reduced dimensional bleeding, though not completely free of it. 3 months later, Maya stood with Eli on the observation deck of Orbital Station Unity, looking down at the blue-green planet below. The station, built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology, served as Earth's primary research facility for dimensional studies and extraterrestrial diplomacy. The last dimensional incursion was recorded 2 weeks ago, Eli noted, reviewing data on his tablet. Class 1, barely detectable. The relocation seems to have been successful. Maya nodded, though her expression remained troubled. And the Draconians? No sign of activity since the shimmering. We believe the relocation of the Nexus to their phase space pocket has complicated their situation significantly. That was an understatement. By Maya's command, the Nexus had transferred its core functions to the dimensional pocket where the Draconian fleet had been trapped. The implications were enormous. A prison had become a power source, but one the prisoners might potentially learn to control. We've created a new problem to solve the old one, she admitted. If the Draconia